Hi, I'm Pastor Joseph from Culpeper Presbyterian Church. Our congregation is called to cultivate a community of faithful disciples, and that includes our online community as well. Each month we'll upload a video devotional led by one of our members so that we can mutually encourage one another while we're together in this digital space. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our opportunities to learn, live, and share the teachings of Christ. Now, here's this month's Love from Locust in Maine.
I love springtime in my garden. In fact, I am happiest spending the whole day outside, planting, weeding, watering, pruning. Recently, I had a memory from almost 30 years ago and another garden in Corpus Christi, Texas. My husband Matt and I lived in a corner house, and I wanted to plant star jasmine along a trellis-like fence that surrounded our property. My mom had planted the same jasmine around the house I grew up in Houston. The smell of jasmine on hot summer nights brings me back to a time of running and playing with siblings and friends till bedtime, and later, as a teenager, whispered conversations about boys and first kisses. Growing anything in Corpus Christi is a challenge. The weather there is hot, dry, and windy, perfect for cactus and palms, but difficult for almost anything else. Before planting the jasmine, I prepared the ground with rich compost and potting soil. I planted the seedlings and tended them carefully. As the jasmine grew, I would weave the tendrils through the trellis, water and fertilize it, and prune it when it got too wild. Eventually, it covered the entire fence, and I was able to delight in the beauty and sweet scent of jasmine all summer long. Years went by, and eventually the wooden trellises began to rot and fall down. We had hired a professional fence builder to install a fence, and we discussed how to cut the jasmine back so that at least 6 inches of the stems would be left above the ground. I left to see my family in Houston, and a day later came back to find that instead of cutting back the jasmine, someone had taken a weed eater to it and beat the stems down flush with the ground. I was really upset. I thought of all the time and effort I put into producing flourishing plants that were now completely destroyed. Spring came, and I was surprised to see sprouts and then tendrils rising from the earth. The jasmine came back thicker and more beautiful and fragrant than it had ever been before. I realized that, even though it looked like it had been destroyed, it had a healthy root structure that allowed it to survive and then to thrive. I had occasion to think about the parable of the jasmine many times over the next several years. Starting in my 30s, I began a practice of study, service, and prayer that fed and nourished my soul. Because of the time I spent tending the garden of my faith, I was prepared when a series of very difficult events threatened to push me into despair. Although I was heartbroken, my faith never wavered. I knew God's love was with me, even on the darkest of days. My roots were strong and alive, and I knew I would emerge from sadness and be a stronger, more compassionate person because of my experience. Ephesians chapter 3, verses 17 through 19. I pray that out of his glorious riches, he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Have a great spring.